Use the stairs and definitely not the elevators. When outside the building, rush to an open field and cover your head while en route. Finally, tune into a broadcasting channel and keep yourself updated on what's happening and what to do next. But remember, prevention is the best solution. This campaign is brought to you by BFM 부산영어방송.
지금 방송 광고라는 부메랑을 던져보세요. 소비자를 향해 정확히 날아가는 광고. 힘차게 돌아가는 경제. 부메랑처럼 다시 기업의 이익으로 되돌아오니까요. 방송 광고, 경제에 큰 힘이 됩니다. 부산 방송광고발전협의회.
The time is now 7 o'clock.
The spiritual leader of the Catholic faith, a man of many firsts, has passed away. Pope Francis was the first non-European pope in more than a millennium and the first Latin American pontiff. He was also the first Jesuit pope and the first pope to visit the Arabian Peninsula, known as the birthplace of Islam and a historic moment for interfaith dialogue. And coming from humble beginnings, Jorge Mario Bergoglio became to be known as Pope Francis. And as Catholics now mourn his passing, it is his humanity that Pope Francis will be remembered for, a pope of the people, never happier than when he was among them. I'm Katherine. This is Morning Wave in Busan on Tuesday, April 22nd on BEFM 부산영어방송. Good morning, Wavers. I hope you're all doing well and enjoying our new spring season. Yes, there was breaking news yesterday regarding the passing of Pope Francis. And, whether you're of the Catholic faith or not, I think we can all agree that Pope Francis was a major figure on the world stage. And tomorrow we are scheduled to have a special interview regarding him and the papacy. So you can tune in tomorrow for that. In the meantime, today we're focusing on domestic issues. And we are barreling toward that June 3rd presidential election. We have issues like labor policies, especially regarding working hours and a 4-day work week. They are under discussion right now. But for people working for businesses, specifically with under 5 employees, this is a moot point, meaning it might be irrelevant. And naturally, there are calls to resolve this age-old issue of these small companies being exempt from key labor laws. According to a civic group called 갑질 119, sudden layoffs and or workplace bullying are quite common in these work sites. And according to workers at these under 5 employee businesses, about a third were not paid any overtime nor holiday pay. Specific cases showed owners refusing to pay overtime, only giving 3 days for summer vacation, and that being the only vacation that workers get. Vacation was actually another major sticking point, with some business owners threatening to dock people's pay if employees took additional time off, apart from these 3 days in the summer. Well, the labor attorney for this civic group said that excluding these workers at these under 5-person businesses from labor laws is unfounded discrimination. Of course, the intent behind these exemptions was to protect the small businesses, which we want to do. We want our small businesses, the SMEs, to thrive, but we're also going to have to look into protecting these workers that work at these small businesses. All right, now, speaking of vacation, it's time for a text topic. I'm very curious. Did you use all of your vacation days? Is your workplace, open, lenient about how you use your sick days or vacation days? Or, do you have to have a legitimate reason? Is there a little 눈치, going on there? So, 나는 작년에 휴가, 연차 다 썼다. 내 직장에서는 연차 자유롭게 쓸 수 있다? 아니면 아직, like I said, is there like the 눈치 game going on? 아직 눈치를 보는 상황이다. So that is our text topic. And of course, your opinion matters. So you can send in your opinion to BFM's live stream, live chat on YouTube. So go to the YouTube platform. Type in BEFM or 부산영어방송. Yes, and you can join our waivers that are very chatty this morning already. And you can send in your thoughts also. Pound 9050, shop 9050. That's going to cost you 101. You can also reach me for free on Kakao Talk as well. To find our account, type in BEFM or 부산영어방송 as well to add us as a friend. And the ways you can listen to our program if you're in Busan on the radio, 90.5 or 103.3 FM. And like I said, we're streaming live right now. You can watch again on YouTube. We have the BEFM app and also the Patbang app as well. And yes, looking ahead to our lineup today, we have Andrew for Wave Sports. Can you guess what that's about? Also, Bonnie with Simply Sustainable. And our special interview today, we're going to be focusing on this landmark UK Supreme Court ruling on defining gender, biological sex or gender. That's coming up in hour number 2, so stay tuned for all of this plus much more. I'll be back with news overview. It is now 7:05. This is News Overview. Unit 10's second insurrection trial. Former President Yoon Suk-yeol attended the second hearing of his insurrection trial yesterday, with his side trying to cast doubt over witness testimony. Tributes pour in after Pope Francis dies. Pope Francis, the head of the Catholic Church, died at the age of 88. The Vatican confirmed that he died of a stroke and subsequent irreversible heart failure. Constitutional Court picks Justice Kim Hyung-doo as new acting president. Kim Hyung-doo, the longest-serving of the current justices of the Constitutional Court, was chosen as its interim leader yesterday, following the retirement of the former acting president Moon Hyung-bae and Justice Lee Mi-sun. One dead, 6 injured in suspected arson at Seoul apartment. One person was killed and 6 others were hurt yesterday in an apparent act of arson at a 21-story apartment building in Gwanak-gu District, Seoul, with a suspect found dead in the hallway. South Korea seeks to export largest amount of rice to Japan in 35 years. South Korea plans to export 22 tons of rice to Japan, the largest volume in 35 years, following a surge in rice prices in the neighboring country. This was News Overview. It is now time for us to check in with Sejin for Now in Busan. I'm still getting used to all the new titles for our segments, so welcome back.
Thank you, Kathleen. Lovely to be here. And hello to all of people listening this morning.
Yes. So for our first issue, we are going to turn our attention to our city, Busan City. Mm-hmm. It seems that they're making kind of quite the statement with these 10 election pledges. So can you tell us about these pledges?
Well, Busan has just unveiled a list of 10 core pledges for the upcoming snap presidential election, which is on June 3rd. And they're actually rather compelling. It seems clear that the city is drawing up blueprint for their survival and growth.
Survival, though. That's kind of a strong choice of word. Could you unpack that for us?
Can. At the very top of this agenda is something called Busan Global Hub City Special Act. A somewhat grand name, yes, but its purpose is significant. Let me paint you a picture.
Okay.
This legislation tries to reposition Busan as an international economic and innovation center. And what's interesting is that it actually has bipartisan support for local lawmakers.
Sure.
Yet it remains stuck in the National Assembly.
So how do the citizens of Busan, how have they reacted?
Well, they're spoken rather clearly. About 5 million people signed a petition urging Parliament to act promptly. It shows nearly the entire city uniting around one message.
Yes.
They barely wait any longer.
Well, there's also this point about relocating this major bank that's been in the talks for so long, right?
Yes, the Korea Development Bank, is based in Seoul right now, but Busan's been pushing to bring it down here.
Yes. So this has been in the works. They've been talking about it for years at this point. The KDB moving to Busan. So is this a matter of just economics?
It's actually more than just economic reasons. Busan's deputy mayor described this beautifully, quite nicely. He said they are not simply political squabbles. They're in fact keys to the city's future and survival.
Yes. So on another note, Busan's also talking about some ambitious infrastructure. So can you tell us about this?
Indeed. We're talking about big moves like setting up maritime court, expanding Gadokdo new airport, and even laying tracks for 수소 고속열차, hydrogen-powered express train.
Yes.
It's like Busan's flipping the script on what a future city should look like.
Interesting.
Isn't that great?
Oh, I hope it's going to be great. So it does sound like they're designing kind of a whole new city almost.
Exactly. This city is a bundle of bold future, not just economically robust, but it's vibrant and innovative and even attractive to live in.
I hear that there are also going to be like quality of life proposals too, right?
Yeah, and they're actually got some pretty thoughtful ideas. One is bringing in a national video and gaming complex, which could be a real cultural boost. And another is transforming Nakdong River into one of Korea's top 3 green spaces. So gotta say that one sounds very, very pretty smart.
But it does sound like it's going to cost, taxpayer money. It sounds quite expensive.
Yeah, this isn't just about the money, Kat, is it? Like, it's about something deeper, recognition and respect. It's Busan's way of standing up and saying, we count and our future matters.
I see. So we'll see how much of this actually comes to fruition. For now, though, let's move on. I hear that you've brought us a story which is quite concerning. What is this one about?
Very much so. The city has been through a rough patch lately with serious safety issues after one another. And it's quite challenging the people's trust.
Yes. So what kind of incidents are we talking about?
You're talking about a sunken boat, a huge fire, and crazy wind damage, and a road that literally flipped into a sinkhole.
So how did the city respond to this?
Just yesterday,
Yes.
Busan City Council held an emergency meeting, and it brought together safety experts and local officials, firefighters, engineers, pretty much everyone, to figure out how to prevent this from becoming the new normal.
And what did they come up with?
Well, one of the big moves is rather fancy sounding, is comprehensive safety management system.
Okay.
A picture sort of control tower, quite keeping tabs on the city, everything from dodgy old infrastructure to the risk of the ground just disappearing under your feet.
I see.
Quite reassuring.
Well, some people might say that this sounds kind of overdue.
Quite right, because they're well aware. They're now pushing for a full-scale investigation into the city's old underground pipes because the real troubles, come often from like what's looking below, out of sight and out of mind,
So it's not just about the roads or just about the weather. It is definitely about infrastructure.
That's right. And not just the physical stuff. They are also aiming to tighten regulations like more inspections for fishing boats, stricter oversight and construction site, and updating laws to prevent fires after buildings are completed.
Yes, indeed. Well, thank you for telling us about this. And now moving on, I hear Busan is doing something quite special for mental health this year. So what is this about?
It's something very close to my heart. The city of Busan says they will launch a program called 전국민 마음투자 지원 사업, National Mind Investment Support Program. It's for helping people who are experiencing emotional struggles like anxiety or depression. So they offer physical counseling.
Psychological counseling. So that is very much needed in today's fast-paced world. So what kind of support are we talking about?
Well, individuals who are selected can receive face-to-face and one-on-one counseling sessions over the course of 20 days.
Yes.
And these are provided through a private mental health agency. So it's very personal and very, very human.
So how can people qualify for this?
Great question. These centers are going to access who would benefit from this kind of care. The support is for those who are recognized as needing counseling by institutions.
I see. So kind of a safety net, a social safety net of sorts, right?
That's one way of good putting it. It's such an empowering and preventive and warm-hearted plan, I must say.
So once again, focusing on mental health. All right, next up, I hear Busan is doing something quite inspiring for Earth Day this year, yes?
Catherine, did you know that today is an Earth Day?
Oh, today, right now.
Yeah, it was Earth Day.
Okay, now we know.
Yeah, how dare was I, and I didn't really know. So here I am telling you, this year marks the 55th anniversary of Earth Day. So and what we can do to celebrate this? The city of Busan is launching its 17th Climate Change Awareness Week from the 21st to the 25th of April.
Right, so this is an entire, almost a week, at least 5 days of it. So what's on the agenda?
It's on the 22nd, and today is the 22nd.
Yes.
And as I said, it's an official Earth Day,
Right.
and there will be special ceremony at 2 p.m. And aside from speeches and handshakes, they're awarding individuals and communities who've made significant contributions to reducing greenhouse gas emissions, including winners 2024 Green Apartment Awards, Green 아파트 보상.
Yes. So the Green Apartment Award. So it sounds like they're recognizing eco-friendly housing efforts.
Yes, they are. It's for encouraging individuals and sustainable living, right at home. And you know what? There's gonna be a storytelling magic performance as well, which I'm particularly interested in. I guess a bit of fun with a serious message at the end.
Interesting. So what about the classic Earth Hour style kind of event? Are they going to do anything like that symbolic this year?
Tonight at 8 p.m.,
Okay.
Busan's landmarks from Busan Tower to Gwangan Bridge and even the cinema center are going dark for 10 minutes. And it's called Lights Out. And it's a small act, but it speaks volume. And Lights Out reminds us change starts when we come together.
Yes. So anything else that we should be aware of for the week?
On the 25th at 10 a.m., the city will co-host a carbon neutral lifestyle campaign. I guess it's designed to empower residents to make small daily changes that reduce their environmental footprint.
Yes, that's important that we all take steps to do so. So thanks for bringing us the latest in our updates. And of course, we'll check in with you tomorrow. Thank you, Sajin.
See you tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
굿모닝입니다.
Good morning.
좋은 아침입니다.
Morning wave in Busan.
Morning wave in Busan.
Morning wave in Busan. Major news, local buzz, and expert takes. It's all here on Morning Wave in Busan. Brighten up your morning commute with Morning Wave in Busan. Morning Wave in Busan.
It It is now 17 past the hour. There is an accident to report on. First up on Luno Samsungdae from Byungho intersection to Byungji Underpass. Right at the entrance of the underpass, there is traffic ensuing because of this. It's also congested on the Dongso overpass from Hwangyang Ramp to the old Kaegum Tollgate. And there's also backup on Pyeonglo from Suyeong Overpass to Suyeong Tunnel. Currently, it is 14 degrees Celsius and raining in parts of Busan. Across the nation, it is looking cloudy with rain across most of the country to stop by later on tonight. There is low visibility and the roads are slippery, so please be careful as you're heading out. This was your traffic and weather. It's now time for top stories. We have Haley in the studio with us. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, so before we jump into our top stories, text topic for you. I already know the answer, but did you use all of your vacation days?
I haven't gone on vacation in 5 years. And this is complete. So I'm a freelancer.
Yes.
It's completely different. We don't really get yonta. And
No.
I don't know, COVID happened. Remember when I was supposed to go to Turkey and
Yeah.
COVID happened and
Yes,
you know,
yes.
people just couldn't. And I've been traveling just domestically so much. I didn't feel the need to use vacation. But I am going on vacation quite soon. Quite soon.
know.
I'm leaving y'all, all of y'all.
She's coming back,
Yeah,
don't
I'm
worry.
coming back. I don't know. Maybe.
Maybe.
We'll see.
Question mark.
Yes, maybe.
Tune in.
Will they take me back? Will I be replaced? But yeah, so I felt a little bit of nunchi when I asked for days off. Not because I didn't think the station would give me days off, but I was like, well, who's gonna fill in for me? Yeah.
Always
Who will?
very
Stay
work-minded.
tuned. Yes.
We're going to jump into our first story, though. This is about former President Yoon Suk-yeol's second hearing, the insurrection trial, which happened yesterday, right?
Right. So again, this was the second hearing for Yoon's insurrection trial, the criminal trial that took place yesterday. A little different from the first time around. We actually do have photos from right before the trial started because the press was allowed to take photos of the former president in the defendant's seats and also before as he was walking into the courtroom. The trial yesterday was the defendant, so meaning former President Yoon Suk-yeol's side's questioning of the prosecution's witnesses. In Korean, that's 반대신문.
Yes.
So the witnesses on stand were Colonel Jo Sung-hyun of the Capital Defense Command and Lieutenant Major Kim Hyung-gi of the Special Warfare Command. So in the first trial, the two testified that they were instructed by their superiors, namely Defense Commander Lee Jin-woo, to, quote, drag out lawmakers 끌어내다 from the National Assembly after the imposition or the declaration of martial law.
Right, and Lieutenant Major Kim Hyung-gi had quite a bit to say.
Right, so keep in mind that these are witnesses for the prosecution. So they're arguing that the president through major generals ordered for the lawmakers to be dragged out. Kim Hyung-gi testified his subordinates defied this order and therefore helped protect the nation's democracy. And before he actually stepped off the stance, he asked the court to speak and said that throughout his 23-year military career, the thing that's never wavered was to protect the country and the people. And he actually looked right at the former president and said he isn't loyal to a person, which is exactly what then prosecutor Yoon Suk-yeol said, which kind of shot him to political stardom at the time. He also, Kim, asked the court to punish him for mutiny, 항명죄, but not his subordinates because they are the ones, again, that protected democracy through inaction.
Right.
He also asked the press to sharply criticize, scrutinize, and monitor the country and watch so that the military would never be used politically again.
Yeah, so what did the president's side say about all of this?
Right, so the whole point of the questioning yesterday was them trying to discredit the witness statements, asking witnesses if it seemed possible to, quote, drag out lawmakers from parliament. So they're trying to kind of underplay what happened. But they were actually hit back with a question from this time Colonel Jo Sung-hyun, who said, because the question before was, is it strategically, militarily possible to physically drag out lawmakers from the National Assembly?
Yes.
And Cho asked, if there can be no command in military strategy to drag out lawmakers, why would he, referring to his superior, why would he have ordered it? Do you know why? So that kind of drew out chuckles from the stands. So Yoon actually spoke himself too. He was relatively quiet compared to the first trial where he was actively asking the questions.
Sure.
But the former president took the microphone and reiterated the stance that the martial law was a value neutral and simply a legal measure, adding that the whole martial law imposition was to maintain order, especially with the troop deployment. He also used this metaphor of comparing the martial law to a knife. 칼, saying that a knife could be used for cooking, cutting down trees, to operate on a sick patient, but it can also be used to kill someone. However, morally, you can't just say because someone wielded a knife, that was only for murder.
Well, we have a clear picture of how long the trial will last, right?
Quite long. It'll go through at least to the end of the year. So we won't get a verdict in 2025 because the court yesterday confirmed 28 additional hearings. So they're going to hear cases about 3 to 4 per month.
Okay.
And that'll go on through December.
I see. So, of course, we will continue to follow this story. Now, moving on, as I said in the opening, Pope Francis has died, right?
Right. So it is a sad day, and a lot of Catholics, not only Catholics, but people around the world are mourning. So Vatican said yesterday that Pope Francis has died at the age of 88 at 7:35 a.m. local time on Easter Monday. And actually, we do have a clip from his last public appearance. So let's take a listen to that first.
Cari fratelli e sorelle, buona Pasqua.
So that was the late Pope giving his Easter blessing. He came out to the balcony in a wheelchair, of course, having been released from the hospital just about a week earlier. So sadness has draped over the Vatican, and mourners have gathered in St. Peter's Square, the symbolic monumental square. And this is actually, again, the very square from which the Pope gave his blessing in the clip you just heard, where he was wishing happy Easter to everyone. So about his legacy, like you said, he was the Pope of many firsts, the first Pope from the Americas. But let's talk about his legacy as a Pope, because you did cover the symbolism.
Yes.
So he was a reformist, progressive in some parts, traditionalist in others, but most of all, a simple, humble man. And for his entire career as Pope, he tried to step his office away from the pomp and grandeur.
Yes.
So he said that the church should focus on harmony and peace, and his final official message from Easter Mass, which he was too weak to speak, but he spoke through the cardinal, was his despair over the situation in Gaza and a call for ceasefire and the release of hostages. He also previously, throughout his legacy as Pope, he pleaded with the world to look kindly upon and accept refugees. Immigration was a huge point for him being the child of immigrants himself.
Yes.
He was also more open towards LGBTQ issues and also the environment. South Koreans actually hold the Pope in dear regard because he visited South Korea in 2014. That was his first visit to Asia, and met with families of Sale Ferry tragedy, along with the victims of Japanese wartime sexual slavery, and residents who have disabilities at this village called Gotdongnae. He also often prayed for peace on the Korean peninsula and addressed issues like the Jeju Air tragedy and the Itaewon tragedy in official masses. So South Korean Catholic leaders have offered their tributes as well, and Pope Francis appointed half of all Korean cardinals to date.
Yes, indeed. So the big question now is this. What happens from this on forward?
Right. So immediately in the next coming days,
Yes.
the Pope's funeral. In the next coming weeks, the selection of a new Pope.
Yes.
So true to his life's work, Pope Francis recently approved plans to simplify the whole procedure of both the papal funeral and the next selection, the conclave. So the late pontiff opted for a basic wooden coffin, very simple, and he scraped the tradition of placing the Pope's body on a raised platform for public viewing.
Okay.
The College of Cardinals, and after the funeral is over, they will choose the new Pope. There are 138 8 cardinals who are eligible to vote. This entire process is called conclave. That's the anglicized pronunciation. It's conclave, as some of our Korean listeners might know.
Yes.
It literally means with key or under key because the cardinals are kind of locked in in this room while they vote, and the entire process is very secretive. Not much is known about it. The only way for the public to find out is through this chimney from the Vatican, the square, where if there's a black chimney, it comes out twice a day. No new pope.
Right.
A white smoke, a new pope has been selected. But again, that won't come for next couple of weeks.
Yes. And tomorrow, I believe we're going to have a special interview on this very topic. Now for a final story. You know, it's already been a month since the monstrous Gyeongbuk fires. I can't believe it's been a month, right? So let's check in with the situation on the scene.
Right. So March 22nd is when the first fire from Gyeongbuk started. Of course, that's burned through the record number of property, forests, and of course, even fatalities. So for people whose homes and livelihoods have burned down in the fire, they've been stuck at this limbo in shelters without homes. According to Gyeongbuk province, there are still 3,421 people who are still in temporary shelters. And the province is currently building temporary homes so they can live in there for about a year, 2 years until their homes are fixed up.
Sure.
So they need 2,700 units in total. Around 70 units are up, so there's still quite a bit of work to do. But the plan is to build 1,000 of them by the end of this month and have everyone move in by the end of May.
Well, what about the investigation into those who may be responsible?
Right, so this is currently ongoing. The police have begun on-site inspection over the Uiseong Anpyeongmyeon fire. This is a site where grave tenders likely started the fire, and also at the Angaemyeon site where an orchard worker is suspected of having started the fire from burning debris. The police are currently waiting on results from the National Forensic Service and will summon the suspects once those results are out.
Yes. And also, let's also tap into like the unseen tolls of the fire.
We do want to address the psychological and emotional toll of the fires having burned through your home, burned through your workplace, livelihoods, because residents, many of whom are elderly, they're suffering from trauma, insomnia, and anxiety. But they are also finding ways to move on. Some of them whose fields at least haven't burned down, they've gone back to farming. And there are weekly counseling services available by local clinics, so that's definitely helping as well.
Yes, much needed. All right, next up, good news is that there are actually, this is a continuation of the story. There are things that we can do because they're doing their utmost to get back on their feet. What can we do?
Of course, if you are financially able to, donate, whether that be through the hometown donation system or directly to any of the charities, but also travel. Travel to Gyeongbuk. Because we might feel like it's sensitive, like can I go there when people are suffering? But you know what you'll do when you travel to Gyeongbuk? You'll spend money.
True.
You'll help out with local businesses. Because tourism for the 5 counties and cities in Gyeongbuk that have been affected by the fire, they dropped by 18% last month. 50, so that's been cut and slashed in half for Yeongdeok. And of course, the areas cancel their official festivals, but it is still flower season, peak nature picnic season.
Yes.
So business owners around these once popular tourist areas say they don't want to complain given that people died and some people have lost their homes, but also this lack of customers, it does threaten their livelihood as well.
Yes.
Those cases also similar around Mount Juangsan National Park and Cheongsong, where it would be peak spring season, but again, really we barely see anyone. I mean, Andong popular tourist restaurants for the 찜닭 and the mackerel, they've seen a huge decline in visitors. City tours have been canceled. Hotels accommodations seeing about a 90% cut or 90% of their reservations canceled.
Yes.
And even acting Interior Minister Ko Ki-dong, who also heads the Central Disaster and Safety Countermeasures headquarters, last week asked the people to help the affected regions by donating or visiting and again, spending money at local businesses.
Yes. Well, thanks for going over all the news. And of course, we'll check in with you in hour number 2. Thank you, Haley.
See you in a bit.
Well, guess what? Listeners, we're ready for our first song for the morning. This is Make You Feel My Love by Adele.
your dreams come true. Nothing that I wouldn't do. Go to the ends of the earth for you to make you feel my love. To make you feel my love.
Welcome back, everybody. So let's get to the text topic, what you think, your opinion. Today we're talking about vacation time, taking days off, sick days. Like, are you comfortable at work? Or do you have to play the 눈치 game, like I like to call it? Well, looking at your responses, some of you, like, can I say your name? So, HK님 얘기해도 돼요? 휴가 쓰는 건 늘 눈치가 많이 보여요. So apparently that's like at all levels and irrespective of like where you may be working, at least here in Korea, there's a little bit of the like, walking on eggshells, kind of checking to see if your superior may be in a good mood or not. So that may be kind of a thing here. And Benny says, in my real work, never, except during the pandemic, if it's counted, but that works. So in his case, he doesn't really, does it mean you never go on vacation or you never do the 눈치 game? So maybe you never go on vacation? Not a good thing. We all need to take breaks because, I don't know, I feel like you can come back recharged, revamped, re-energized to go back to your work and be much more productive. What do you think? So I'll read more of your messages as they come in. In the meantime, let's get to this segment. It's new or is it? Guess who I found? It's time for Wave Sports.
Wave Sports, we're here.
That's how
Tuesday
Andrew
morning.
named it.
7:38.
Yeah. How are you?
Good. I was just coughing before, and I was like, one of those ones where like you don't expect to come in like I'm not sick, I don't have anything wrong, but I drank water the wrong way.
Oh,
like,
definitely.
I'm like, oh my God, what's wrong?
I get that all the time. Like a piece of like a lint or something gets caught in my throat while I'm on air. That's the worst.
The worst is when I'm driving on my scooter and it's a little bit of a dusty day or something, or you get the odd bug.
Ooh, do you chew or do you spit them out?
Well, sometimes you just need the protein. You need the protein.
Protein is good.
Get it all in you.
It's good. Hey, so text topic time.
Oh, like who's it? No, I'm just joking. I'm just, we're supposed to be unbiased in this this profession, but not in this studio.
About like taking vacation.
Okay.
I mean, I know you're a freelancer here.
Sure.
But like in your...
You mean I have a choice? No.
I'm a freelancer too. We all are. But the on-air talent, we're all freelancers. But
sure.
In your... Well, you work at a school, so there's no like 눈치. It's pretty much set, right? Your vacation time.
Yeah, I think but there's still, I want to say since COVID, things have changed. And it's funny how, I think it was Benny Name also mentioned COVID as well. But it was like, prior to COVID, there weren't so many regulations in place, and I don't think things were checked as much.
Yes.
But now it is like if you want to have like the bonsuap or like the makeup classes.
Oh my gosh.
Like you have to go through the computer system, you have to do this, that, the other thing. But
it's so strict.
You're allowed a certain amount a semester. So if you want to use them, they're there. But I don't know, other workplaces I've been or I've worked in Korea, like maybe back in a day when I worked at a Hagwon or something like that. And if you wanted to take a vacation day or something like that, I don't even know what words I want to use right now, but I'd probably better chance of getting money from the pavement. Oh. Because it's not going to happen. Yeah.
And we have a question from 살쾡이들.
Okay.
It says, 눈치가 영어로 뭔가요? So I would describe it as reading the room. Or there are so many variations, right? Reading the room, kind of testing the vibes, checking out the vibes.
Yeah.
What would you say?
I would, along the same lines as you, just, having an awareness of what's going on.
That's important, though. Social awareness 100%. In your workplace.
And there's a lot of people who do not have that. And it's like...
It's uncomfortable.
You're setting yourself up to fail. But if you see that your boss is having a bad day, or if you're looking to ask for a day off or get some vacation time, make sure you're aware of it, weeks in advance or whatnot, so that you can try to hit them on a good day. Or, maybe buy them a coffee the week before, set them up. Don't do it all in the same day.
So Andrew says social awareness.
Yeah.
I would say reading the room.
Yeah, reading the room is a big one.
Sometimes it can be walking on eggshells, depending on what kind of boss you have, right?
Yeah, definitely.
All right, let's jump into wave. Can we do the wave?
You can do the wave.
Wave sports.
Yeah, you can do the wave.
What do you have for us?
So it's a busy weekend in the world of sports. We're going to start right here in Busan to get things going this morning. Lotte.
Aren't they doing well?
Well would be an understatement for the Lotte Giants.
Knock on wood, everybody. Cross your fingers. Knock on everything.
So Lotte Giants are on fire at the moment. They're 8-2-0 in their last 10 games. For our listeners who are outside of Korea, in the U.S., Canada, other places, you notice I put an O at the end of that. There are ties in Korean baseball in the KBO. So if you're wondering, what's he talking about there? There are ties. It only goes 12 innings, so there are ties. So their midweek series last week at home against Basement. I like saying that when it's not the Lotte Giants. Kiom Heroes was a treat for anyone who made it out to Sagic. The team bagged 3 wins with an 8-6, 6-4, and 7-1 wins that wrapped up 9 straight games at Sagic. That's unprecedented. That would honestly, I don't think would ever happen in a regular season. But because everything that happened out at the NC Stadium in Changwon, they had to play that home series in Busan. So that's why they ended up getting 9 games in a row. So with the weekend games, just a short drive up the highway to Daegu to face the Samsung Lions. The fun didn't stop there, and their bats stayed hot, commanding an 8-1 win on Friday night.
Wow.
We're going to get to a clip here. This is from TVing, and I don't know, just enjoy it.
찍었어요. 오른쪽 우익수 뒤로 탑장을 넘어갑니다. 달아나는 투런 나스기업 떡하는 소리 왼쪽 좌익수 탑장 넘어갑니다. 레이스 3호 쏘올렸습니다. 순식간에 남장 좌익수 발걸음을 멈춥니다. 담장을 훌쩍 뛰어넘습니다. 정보은의 솔로 홈런. 스코어 8-0. 롯데자이언츠가 멀어져 갑니다.
I love
8-0. You don't hear that too often when it's for Lotte, and that was fantastic. So that was, I really like that clip, and that, as I said, is from TVing. Also, Lotte Giants TV on NoTube also has some really good clips as well. But I love it how you could hear the cheering in the background. For our listeners who aren't in Korea and you don't understand how baseball is here, it's an absolute yard sale of a show.
It is.
It's fantastic in all the best ways. So that was Reyes. Actually, it was Nasung-yup, Reyes, and then Jung Bo-gun all had home runs in that game. And it was 8-0 at that time. And it was, it ended up going on to be 8-1. It was a night that I don't think anyone expected because of the week they had that there'll be a bit of a come down. But then Saturday night, the Giants were brought back to reality with a 10-3 drubbing from the Lions. But they were able to get things back on track on Sunday with a 4-3 win.
Okay, important question.
Sure.
Where are the Lotte Giants in the standings right now?
Well, it was kind of a roller coaster of a weekend. So after they had won on Friday night, that put them up into second. And then because they lost on Saturday, but then won on Sunday, but the other teams had won on Sunday.
Okay.
Lotte has 1 tie. So that affects their win percentage.
Okay.
So I think it's teams 2 through 5, so second through fifth, are all within a half game of each other, or it's 2 points on the win percentage. So I guess that brings them down, but they're all pretty much 5.5 game back of the LG Twins, who are they're unstoppable at the moment.
I know, but I mean, anywhere between second and fourth, we're happy, right?
Anything above 7th, I'm doing okay at this point in the season. Now, what's going well for them?
Yes.
I just really feel that they're getting getting, they're getting the hits and they're getting the fielding when they need them. They're not making these fancy plays when there's 0 out.
Sure.
It's when they need that 3rd out. And then it also helps that Kim Won-jun, he's leading the league in saves and has an unprecedented ERA of 0.79, which is unbelievable. Hopefully he can keep things going. And for our listeners in Busan, what's your take on Kim Won-jun cutting his hair? Do you think this is why he's getting, all this luck? He had that lion mane, right? So
do you think that's like
I don't
the
know.
formula? Does
because
he need to continue
after
cutting?
every pitch last season, he had his hat off, fixing his hair, pulling it back. So I just think, but it was also a routine. And pitchers are, they all have their routine, right?
They have routines. Some of them are quite superstitious.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. So also for our listeners out there, if anybody saw last week in the Kium series when Charlie Barnes, his pitcher, his daughter was up dancing with the cheerleaders.
Yeah.
It was really, really cute. I thought that was pretty
so cute.
awesome.
Yes. Indeed. And so Choi Yun-jung, who lives near Sajik, she's like, 롯데가 이겨서 우리 동네가 들썩들썩해서. I can imagine. The whole city was rocking, right?
Exactly.
Right.
So the team is back in action this week, midweek games against the Hanwha Eagles, who currently sit in second.
Yes.
So if they're able to get a couple wins, that should bounce them back up into that territory before heading to Seoul this weekend to take on the Doosan Bears.
Yay.
Yes.
So hoping for more wins. So let's go to our next sport. What are we talking about?
Some more golf news. Now, this is something that I was kind of aware of, forgot about, and then was reminded of it over the past week. Live Golf.
Oh, yeah.
The event that's coming to Korea, the highly anticipated debut in South Korea, May 2nd to May 4th at the Jack Nicklaus Golf Club in Incheon. So the event brings 14 major champions, including Bryson DeChambeau, John Ram, alongside local favorites Kevin Na, Danny Lee, and Jang Yubin from the Ironheads GC, so golf club. So for our listeners who aren't aware how Live Golf works, you're on a team, essentially, right? So, the Korean contingent are pretty excited to bring Live Golf to Korea.
Sure.
It's a very different atmosphere than the PGA Tour is. There's usually concerts, live music, events.
Yes.
You get to be a little bit more up close with the golfers as well. They'll sign autographs. I guess when you're making all that money, you're a little bit happier.
And it's not as some people would say reserved or uptight. I'm not saying
100%.
You know what I'm talking about.
100%. It's a little bit more
relaxed. The vibes
relaxed.
are different. Yes.
Yeah. So the Koreans, they're really excited to bring this to Korea and have people experience it. And then also there's different fan zones and things like that. So if you're in the area, go check it out. I know there's still lots of tickets available. I checked on their website.
Okay.
But I wish I was going, but I'm not.
Oh, you're not?
I'm not going.
I thought you would be going for sure. I want to go.
I want to.
I want to go see
think
Bryson.
the opportunity was there to probably go, but it being Children's Day weekend and my anniversary's on May 4th. May the 4th be with you.
You can't go as a family, no?
Yeah, no, I don't think it would work. Can't get a family press pass?
I know.
Doesn't work like
Can
that.
I go? Can I go? 피디님 저 다녀와도 돼요?
Yeah.
모니 안 해도 돼요? Oh, she's like, no, it's not happening.
Never that. You got to say. All right, moving on.
Yes.
To why I'm wearing this.
Why
All right.
are you
Do you know
wearing
what team
that?
this is?
I don't know. Must I know?
Well, I was going to talk about basketball and hockey, but I don't know if we have time to get into basketball.
Okay.
So the NBA playoffs did start last week. They're all within a couple games into their series. Nothing too surprising.
Okay.
So if we move on past that, hopefully we'll pick it up in the second round for basketball. The NHL got things going on Saturday, and there's a couple huge battles in the NHL playoffs that have a lot of people excited. There's a battle of Florida between Tampa Bay and the Florida Panthers.
Sure.
There's a battle of Ontario and Canada between the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Ottawa Senators. Then the LA Kings taking on the Edmonton Oilers. A big one that I know one of our listeners is definitely paying attention to, Leslie, the Colorado Avalanche playing the Dallas Stars.
Yes.
But who am I cheering for?
Who are you cheering for? Let our listeners know.
The Montreal Canadiens.
Of course.
Montreal, all right. So they are taking on the second best team in the NHL. So they got the last wild card spot to get into the playoffs.
Oh, yay.
But the way I see it, and I think you might agree with me on this one.
Sure.
Logic-wise.
Okay.
They had to win to get into the playoffs. So they have momentum. In sports, momentum is huge.
It's huge. It is. I agree.
hopefully we can continue that momentum. And I'm saying no problem. Montreal Canadiens in 6 games. Washington Capitals, you had your time with Ovechkin. Hit the road, Jack.
I mean, our listeners are so into sports. Leslie, Colorado has teams in playoffs for both basketball and hockey. So she's talking about the Denver Nuggets, right? And the Avs. And also Benny saying, quick note, Thunder pummeled the Grizzlies in game 1 with their 5th.
See, there you go. I don't even, they get it in the chat.
Yes.
They get it in the chat.
Yes.
All right. Now, one last thing. I just want to move over to some European football. I'm not going to talk about Liverpool, but then one more game they do win the league. But the Champions League will...
Just slip that in there.
Yeah.
Real natural.
Moving into the semifinals.
Yes.
Which will see Arsenal face Paris Saint-Germain after Arsenal knocked off Real Madrid, which... I think that surprised everybody. All right. And then Inter will also play against Barcelona, which a lot of people aren't really sure how that's going to go because very different styles. And the Europa League, I have some fans who would be very angry at me if I don't say anything about this. But
not angry.
Tottenham moving on to the semifinals, who will play Bodo Glimt, and then Atletico Bilbao will play against Manchester United. Now, the final 4, the Europa League, will take place at the San Mamés Stadium in Bilbao. So, it's more, for Atletico, they really want to win this because they'll be at home in front of a lot of fans, and they don't need to travel, which would be fantastic. But I wouldn't mind a Spurs United final.
That would be so
I would love
electric.
to cheer on Spurs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because,
All right.
All right. Well, we're going to call it a wrap for Wave. Come on, let's do the Wave. Sports.
Wave.
Sports. We'll check in with you next week.
Yeah, with the Liverpool league win.
Bye, Andrew.
Bye-bye.
Yes, well, it's time to wrap up for hour number 1 with 왜 그래 by Kim Mi-hyun. Enjoy. I'll be back at 8.
왜 그래 무슨 일 있었어 너의 얼굴이 말이 아냐 말해봐 왜 그래 나쁜 일인걸 나랑 눈도 맞추지 못해 지금 넌 도대체 왜 아무런 말도 없는 거야 미안해서 못하는 거야 하기 싫어 안 하는 거야 도대체 왜 아무런 말도 없는 거야 내가 알면 안 되는 거야 이젠 할 말도 없는 거야 왜 그래 그렇게 어려워 뭐 좀 먹으러 갈까 이따 나갈까 왜 그래 뭘 하자는 거야 참는데도 한계가 있어 알겠니 도대체 왜 아무런 말도 없는 거야 미안해서 못하는 거야 하기
부산영어방송. 현대해상 모델 이정재입니다. 인생은 계속해서 모양을 바꾸죠. 혼자에서 가족으로, 또 사회로 점점 커져가는 당신의 인생을 따라 당신의 어떤 인생도 감싸주는 마음 넓은 보험이 될 수 있도록 마음이 합니다. 현대해상.
부산의 축제 어디까지 즐겨보셨나요? 과거와 현재, 미래가 공존하는 항구도시 부산. 이곳 부산은 계절을 물들이는 다양한 축제로 늘 풍성합니다. 봄의 시작을 알리는 봄꽃 축제부터 부산의 여름을 만끽하는 바다 축제, 전 세계 영화인들이 모이는 부산국제영화제와 새로운 시작의 해맞이 축제까지. 부산의 축제는 우리의 열정을 가득 담고 있습니다. 바쁜 일상은 잠시 뒤로하고 특별한 시간을 선물 받는 바로 이곳 부산에서 우리의 삶은 축제가 됩니다. 축제로 하나 되는 부산, 여러분은 어떤 축제를 기다리시나요? 이 캠페인은 대선공익재단과 BFM 부산영어방송이 함께합니다.
혹시 지금 운전 중이신가요? 어린이 교통사고 피해자 수는 지난 3년 평균 약 9만 명. 특히 어린이 보호구역 안전기준이 강화된 이후에도 어린이 보호구역 내 사고는 지속적으로 발생하고 있습니다. 스쿨존에서는 반드시 시속 30km 이하 서행, 스쿨존 내 불법 주정차 금지, 차량 출발 전 앞뒤 좌우 살피는 습관으로 어린이가 안전한 도시를 만듭니다. 참, 운전 중 휴대전화 사용은 모두에게 위험합니다. 우리 모두를 위한 교통안전, 나부터 실천하면 모두가 안전해집니다. 어린이가 안전하게 뛰어놀 수 있는 부산. 아이 키우기 좋은 도시는 우리 모두의 미래이자 희망입니다. 이 캠페인은 어린이가 안전한 부산을 만드는 은행, B&K 부산은행과 함께합니다.
Did you know that an average person in South Korea uses more than 10 kilograms of disposable products a year? While convenient, it does weigh heavily on the environment as they take up to 500 years to break down. Here is how we can cut down on disposable products. First, use tumblers and mugs instead of plastic or paper cups. When you go grocery shopping, bring a reusable bag so you won't have to ask for a plastic one. At home, instead of reaching for single-use paper towels or wet wipes, use rags and towels. These small steps for the environment can have a big impact on planet Earth. This campaign was brought to you by BEFM Busan 영어방송.
The time is now 8 o'clock.
It is now 8 o'clock. This is the second hour of Morning Wave in Busan, and this is Spotlight News. Yoon attends second insurrection trial. Former President Yoon Suk-yeol attended the second hearing of his insurrection trial yesterday, with his side trying to cast doubt over witness testimony. Yoon's counsel questioned whether the alleged order to remove lawmakers from parliament on the night of martial law could have realistically been carried out. Yoon reiterated his earlier claim that martial law is value neutral and simply a legal measure. The third hearing of the ex-president's criminal trial has been set for May 12th. Tributes pour in after Pope Francis dies. Pope Francis, the head of the Catholic Church, died at the age of 88. The Vatican confirmed that he died of a stroke and subsequent irreversible heart failure. The Pope had recently battled a series of respiratory problems related to his chronic lung condition, but offered his blessings on Easter Sunday for what would be his final appearance. Political and religious leaders of different beliefs from around the world have offered their condolences and tributes. South Korean acting President Han Duck-soo extended a message of sincere condolences. U.S. President Donald Trump ordered flags to be flown at half-staff. Constitutional Court picks Justice Kim Hyung-doo as new acting president. Kim Hyung-doo, the longest-serving of the current justices of the Constitutional Court, was chosen as its interim leader yesterday, following the retirement of the former acting president Moon Hyung-bae and Justice Lee Mi-sun yesterday. A graduate of Seoul National University School of Law, Kim served as a presiding judge of the Seoul High Court, chief researcher of the Judicial Policy Research Institute, and vice minister of the National Court Administration, among other roles. He is considered an ideological moderate. Kim leads a 7-member bench as 2 seats remain empty. One dead, 6 injured in suspected arson at Seoul apartment. 1 person was killed and 6 others were hurt yesterday in an apparent act of arson at a 21-story apartment building in Gwanak-gu District, Seoul, with the suspect found dead in the hallway. The police say that the suspect, a man in his 60s, started the fire using an oil-filled pesticide container. The police found a note inside the residence of the suspected arsonist and are looking into the exact motive of the crime. Residents told the police that the suspect had conflicts with his upstairs neighbors involving noise, with police called last September over physical altercations. South Korea seeks to export largest amount of rice to Japan in 35 years. South Korea plans to export 22 tons of rice to Japan, the largest volume in 35 years, following a surge in rice prices in the neighboring country. The Japan office of South Korea's NH Trading Company imported 2 tons of Korean rice products last month, according to company officials. The 2 countries' rice trade plan comes amid surging grain prices in Japan over the past year, sparked by poor harvests and other reasons. Japanese tourists have been purchasing rice from South Korea, even going to lengths to obtain quarantine certificates to do so. And this was Spotlight News. It is time for Wa글와글. And you know, our English title is called Babble On.
I like the on. So that means I can just keep going.
On and on and on.
Yes.
No.
Finally.
No.
Wow.
Well, let's see how short of a leash or how long of a leash our producer has for us. First, this story. A South Korean tourist was shot dead in the Philippines.
An unfortunate one to start off with. Yes. There is trigger warning for, obviously, violence. So according to the South Korean Foreign Ministry, a Korean tourist was attacked, shot, and killed by an armed robber, or actually 2 of them in the city of Angeles. So in the video footage that was released, you see 2 locals on a motorcycle and 2 South Korean men who are tourists. The motorcyclists take one of the men's bag, and he resists, and he was shot in the altercation. He was taken to the hospital about 30 minutes later, but did not make it. Well, the foreign ministry said that the Korean consulate is providing the necessary support for the victim, his families, along with the request to the local authorities to urgently investigate this case. But this follows another case from earlier last month, on March 7th, where there was another armed robbery in Manila this time.
Yes.
Sort of similar circumstances where the victim, another South Korean, also died. So the Korean embassy in the Philippines said that security has become rather tense in the Philippines ahead of the general elections coming up next soon. And the number of armed robbery cases has increased as well. And therefore, it urged caution for Koreans and telling them not to walk in dark areas at night alone. And also, if you do any case, whether it be in the Philippines or elsewhere, when you are held at gunpoint with an armed robber, don't resist. Just give up whatever they demand.
Yes, indeed. Such a tragic story. So thanks for reporting on it. For our next story, park golf has become such a popular pastime as of late, and municipalities are building these park golf ranges all across their properties. But apparently there is also an increasing number of illegal sites, really?
Right. So park golf, so I go sometimes running at Samnak Ecological Park, and on the weekends, I can't get a parking spot.
Oh, because of park golf.
Because of park golfers. It is immensely popular. That would be an understatement. But Samnak Park, I believe to my knowledge, it's a public park golf range.
Yes.
But then there are private golf ranges along public property. Take, for example, a park golf practice range along Yeongsan River in Yeongam County in Jeonnam. It's a 45-hole course, quite popular, especially among the elderly. It has kind of turned out to be a nice, exercise for them. It's a private range.
Oh.
Here's the problem. It's located in the middle of a public park that's also a historical heritage site.
How's that possible?
So let that mull in your head. So it's a 공원, like 도시공원, but 사적 park golf range. Why? How? So the park in question is the Mahan Culture Park, Mahan 문화공원, which was created with 11 billion won of taxpayer money, again, public park, to highlight the ancient dolmen, 고인돌. The ancient huge stone structures that were used during prehistoric times, right? But then it's also home to the local branch of a private organization, Korea Park Golf Association, that just set up their golf range there.
Oh, so big question, because I was kind of like, why? How did they get approval from the local authorities to play park golf right next to historical sites?
Hot tip, don't. Just set up shop there.
Oh, they didn't?
They didn't.
They didn't get approval?
That's what I meant. They didn't get approval. They just built stuff. Yeah, build it and they will come, and they did.
Oh.
So the association just went ahead, including mowing the lawn, digging up holes, 45 of them, hammering in some signs, and lots of signs to play, and people came. And here's the problem. This isn't a singularity. There are so many more of these sites across the country. I mean, not all out of them over, historical heritage sites, but still. And the thing is, although it is public property, the land is public, the other property, the things are private. So they're arguing that it's now private property. So because of the massive popularity, here's an added issue. You have hundreds of people coming in weekdays, weeknights, and weekends. Local governments are kind of at a loss as to what to do because they also want to encourage their senior citizens to go out there, socialize, be active. So they don't want to be the ones that shut down this popular site.
Yes.
But at the same time, what are you going to do about it?
Leslie says they decided to ask for forgiveness instead of permission. Permission is so important,
It's
though.
like squatters' rights, apparently.
허락을 받고 지어야 되는
I
거
know.
아닌가요? Is a question that we're posing. You think, right. Well, moving on. We all got into fights when we were young. I've never been in a physical altercation, but I have fought with
your cousins, no? You've talked about it. Well, they hit you first.
They hit me first, and they pulled my arm out of its socket.
Oh.
And then there was
oh man,
heck to pay, let's just say. And a popular saying among parents, was like, kids will be kids, right? Roughly, 애들은 싸우면서 크는 거야, or something like that, right? But here's a case where it goes beyond what is acceptable, right?
So you have kids.
Yes.
You're juniors. Say they're it's the 3rd, 4th grade, 9 or 10. They're on the playground. There's like a kerfuffle. Let's just say, like when do you step in?
And
I want to ask our waivers too.
Like 애들이 싸울 때, your children, 자녀, like your children, like when do you step in?
언제 이제 막으시나요? 언제부터 이제 그만해라.
I try not to, when they were younger, I tried not to intervene unless it was like going to be, okay, now we're getting into the realm of like someone's really going to get hurt or it's dangerous, like physical, Yeah.
Right. I think it's the physicality, right? at the subway station, and these kids, not mine, because I got none, but these kids were just like throwing each other onto the floor. And I was like, all right. And they were laughing, but I was like, again, someone could
get hurt,
get their arm dislocated.
Right.
So, and I was like, but then no adult was saying anything. But I'm like, I know we're all afraid of kids, but somebody has to. And I was like, 다친다, in my like most authoritative voice. And they were nice. They were like, 네. And they just all walked away. I'm like, okay, good. But in any case, this is when everything kind of went south. And now there's a court case.
A court case.
And a lot of money to pay.
Let's hear what happened.
All right. So this goes back to October of 2023.
Yes.
This child, he was 9 years old back then, threw a rock.
Like a rock.
돌멩이. Rock at another kid at a school playground. Yeah. And how dangerous? Well, the second kid sustained injuries on their face, under their eye, cheek, and nose, about 1 to 2 centimeters wide.
That's serious.
So there are scars.
Yes.
So the court, so the parents of the second child took the case to court, sued.
Yes.
The court ordered for a doctor's opinion. The doctor said that the scars would need multiple laser treatments, and some of them may be permanent.
On the face.
Yeah, on the face. So the school violence committee ordered the perpetrating student to write an apology. The victim's parents filed for damages, and this happened in Busan. Busan Regional Court recently ordered the student, the kid, I suppose 11 years old now, has to pay 18 million won, 1,800만 원. We're not done yet. The parents each have to pay 2 million won. So the total bill, 22 million won.
Is this
2,200만 원. Well, not really.
Right.
Right. Because
I don't remember hearing about a case where the court or judge ordered a minor to pay up.
Right.
But I mean, technically it's probably the parents. But
well,
still.
I mean, of course. So here's the thing. The defendant's argument, the kid's the one that threw the rock, his attorney's argument was he's a kid. Right?
Okay.
Right. And that was the parents' argument. Well, he's a kid, number one, because he doesn't have the ability to pay, so therefore is not liable to pay. The judge said no.
No. He wasn't having it, or they weren't having it, yeah.
As to, argument of, well, he's a kid, so he didn't know the ramifications of his action. One witness, another child, told the court that the defendant, the kid, cried after this incident, saying that, I might have to go to 학폭위. 학폭위 가면 어떡해? So they knew the gravity of at least what 학폭위 was. And so the judge deemed that this was evidence that the defendant was in a state of mind to take responsibility for their action. 피고가 자신의 행위에 대해 책임을 질 수 있는, 알 수 있는 정신 능력이 있었다. So that mental capacity is actually a really important part.
Okay.
Another important bit, parents. So where do parents, where does your responsibility lie? Well, here's what the judge ruled. Parents have a duty to educate and supervise their underage children to not hurt others. So
True.
가정교육, home education. They were negligent in this duty, and the judge saw that this lack of proper home education was kind of an underlying cause of this incident, and therefore the parents too are liable to pay a set amount.
Hence the 18 plus 2 million.
Right. So this is a very important ruling as to what our responsibility as parents or guardian parental figures is. Yeah.
I mean, I do understand kids, accidentally, unintentionally, if you elbow somebody like by accident on the jungle gym.
Right.
Things like that happen.
Of course.
Intentionally throwing a rock.
Yeah.
May have crossed the line. All right. Lastly, we see a lot of foreign tourists on the streets these days, but, many of them apparently are disgruntled with the map and navigation apps.
Right. So I want to ask our non-Korean listeners who have been to Korea, how did you get around?
Because I can't even get around, and I live here.
Oh, right.
Both
so
of us, right?
How do you, as a primarily English speaker?
Yes.
How do you get around?
First of all, I cannot go anywhere without my Navi for my car. But even when I'm walking, sometimes I get a little lost.
I always walk with my navigation, and I need it to tell me which direction I'm going.
Where am I going? Yeah. So no, I definitely do. And then sometimes they do have it in English. So sometimes.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Oh, that's the problem.
And I would ask our Korean residents, what app, and I mean, if you're on our NotTube, you can name apps. What app do you use?
Yeah.
자, 여러분은 어떤 내비 어플 쓰시나요? So the most common apps for directions in South Korea, and this is new, so I can say it, Naver, Kakao, right? Homegrown companies, South Korean companies. Not an issue for us, but it is for foreign visitors.
But, you know, these apps, like, I use one of the two, the yellow one. I think it was in English, was it not?
They do give English services, but sometimes it gives wrong information.
Oh, that's
Things
bad.
get lost in translation. Let me give you an example. So on the this particular article, use Naver. On the Naver app, if you look up 응급진료, it's like emergency services in Korean, it takes you to the nearest hospital, like ER. However, if you look up emergency care in English, well, apparently this journalist was based in Seoul area, told you where the underground shelter was.
Oh, like,
and
like
evacuation shelter. Apparently, the Chinese and Japanese language settings took you to an IT firm, a tech company,
that's
which
terrible.
Whoa,
yeah.
Okay, so then why don't you use Google, which is the #1 navigation app globally? Well, Google gives inaccurate it doesn't provide accurate information because it has limited coverage in South Korea.
True.
And a lot of tourists find out only after they get here.
Yeah, why is that though?
Right, so Google Maps, again, #1 most used app globally. It has limited service. It doesn't provide navigation services for walking, cars, or bicycles, which is like, so what? It only has public transportation information for many parts. Google says the Korean government doesn't provide adequate data, specific data to provide these precision services.
Yes.
There are many reasons, one of which being, well, Korea is a country at war, technically. So providing such accurate GPS locations and street information to foreign companies could be a security breach is the issue. But again, if we want to promote tourism, you do want people to be able to get around.
It can be a hindrance though, definitely, right? An inconvenience at the very least.
Right.
Well, thank you so much for the Waggly News. We'll check in with you tomorrow. Thank you, Haley.
See you tomorrow.
And with that, let's head to our updated traffic and weather. It is now time for your updated traffic report. There's an accident to report on Bunyeong-lo coming into the city. There's an accident right past the Wondong ramp. Also, it's congested on the Dongso overpass from Hwangryong ramp to the old Gaegeum toll gate. It's also very slow looking on Yeonsuro from Suyeong to Mangmi intersection. And there's also traffic on Jungangdaero from City Hall going toward Yangjong intersection. As for the weather, it's currently 14 degrees Celsius and it's raining here in Busan. Across the nation, pretty similar, cloudy with rain in most parts of the country to stop by later on tonight. There is low visibility and the roads are slippery. So you know what to do. You need to be extra careful today. This was your traffic and weather. And this is Ed Sheeran with Castle on the Hill.
When I was 6 years old, I broke my leg. And I was running from my brother and his friends. And tasted the sweet perfume of the mountain grass I rolled down. I was younger then. Take me back to when I found my heart, broke it here, made friends and lost them through the years. And I've not seen the boring fields in so long. I know I've grown, but I can't wait to go home. I'm on my way, driving at 90 down those country lanes, singing to Tiny Dancer, and I miss the way you make me feel. 15 years old and smoking and rolled cigarettes. Running from the law through the backfields and getting drunk with my friends. Had my first kiss on a Friday night. I don't reckon that I did it right, but I was younger then. Take me back to when we found weekend jobs, and when we got paid, we'd buy cheap spirits and drink them straight. Me and my friends have not thrown up in so long. Oh, how we've grown, but I can't wait to go home. I'm on my way, driving at 90 down those country lanes, singing to Tiny Dancer, and I miss the way you make me feel. It's real. We watch the sunset over the castle on the hill. Over the castle on the hill. Over the castle on the hill. One friend left to sell clothes, and one works down by the coast. One had 2 kids but lives alone. One's brother overdosed. One's already on his second wife. One's just barely getting by, but these people raised me, and I can't wait to go home. And I'm on my way. I still remember these old country lanes when we did not know the answers, and I miss the way you make me feel. It's real. We watch the sunset over the castle on the hill. Over the castle on the hill. Over the castle on the hill.
This is our special interview for Tuesday morning. The UK Supreme Court has ruled that under its equality laws, the legal definition of a woman is based on biological sex. And so this decision has sparked mixed reactions, with some expressing support and others raising concerns about potential future discrimination. Today, we have invited to the airwaves Elizabeth Schneider, who is a professor of law. She's the Rose L. Hoffer Professor of Law at Brooklyn Law School. That's in the United States. So let's say hi to her first. Hi, Professor. Welcome to our program.
Thank you very much.
Professor, can you just do me a small favor and sit slightly away from the camera so we can... Sure. Oh, thank you. Thank you. That's so much better. But
much better.
Yes. Well, first of all, if you can briefly explain the key points of the UK Supreme Court ruling, and basically what was the legal issue at hand at the center of the case?
Well, the case was brought to the UK Supreme Court by campaigners of a group called For Women Scotland. And they asked the Supreme Court to determine what the law meant by quote unquote sex, given that the Scottish government had argued that the 2004 Gender Recognition Act defines it as certificated sex. Now, the explanation here is that Scotland, the women, the campaigners for the group is actually called For Women Scotland, FWS. And they were advocating for a 50% female composition of the various aspects of the Scottish government.
Right.
And the Scottish government said that there was a question as to whether or not trans women should be part of that 50%. And the For Women Scotland argued that that should not be the case. That the 50% should only include women who had been biological women from birth. And that was the issue that the Supreme Court had to determine.
Yes.
It's a very long decision, 88 pages. And it so obviously the court was really, I mean, this is an issue, as you, I'm sure, are aware, that has been a very big issue in the United States.
Right.
And in other countries as well.
Sure.
And it was limited to the what the court decided was the precise interpretation of the equality legislation, the 2010 Equality Act, which applies to the UK, not just Scotland, and is designed to prevent various forms of discrimination. But in their ruling, the judges stated they were not commenting more broadly on whether or not transgender women are women, adding that it was not the role of the court to adjudicate on the meaning of gender or sex. The court said the following. Judge Lord Hodge the chief judge issued the decision. He says the unanimous decision of this court is that the terms woman and sex in the Equality Act 2010 refer to a biological woman and biological sex. Read fairly and in context, the provisions relating, for example, now to single-sex services can only be interpreted by reference to biological sex.
I see.
So, for example, single-sex schools, if there are such, or single-sex, for example, shelters, domestic violence shelters for women.
Right.
Or, for example, if there is sex segregation in hospitals, for example, that would mean it could be limited. I mean, he was very concerned, I think, Judge Hodge, that the opinion would be interpreted as a negative for transgender women and trans people generally.
Yes.
Because he specifically says in the opinion that it should not be taken as a triumph for one group in society as opposed to another.
Yes.
But it is a very interesting and important decision. And I think it's going to take quite a while before groups in Scotland and in the UK generally are going to, sort of figure out what the parameters are of this.
Well, Professor, I'm also very curious about how the public has reacted to this pretty important decision, whether people support trans rights versus figures like J.K. Rowling, famed author, who actually supports the decision itself. So what has the reaction been?
Well, it's really hard to know. Interestingly, I think one of the places, of course, where the implications may be considerable, and I say that because we just don't know yet, are in athletics.
Yes.
And of course, that's been true in the U.S. That's been true in international competitions, Olympics and others. And so it's really hard to know that yet. But I would imagine that the public's reaction is somewhat split.
Yes.
There definitely are organizations in the UK that have been very supportive of trans rights and have really brought that to public attention. And while, as I said, Judge Lord Hodge is saying that it shouldn't be viewed as a negative towards transgender rights.
Sure.
I think that there are going to be organizations in the UK and in Scotland, perhaps, as well,
right,
that are negative.
Yes, indeed. And Professor, do you see this decision as a precursor or maybe even a global trend? Do you see that this might be a trend toward more restrictive legal interpretations of gender, as seen both with this recent UK ruling and also with the recent DEI rollbacks also in the U.S.?
Yes. I have to say I am concerned about that. The absolutely very strong statements by President Trump in the U.S. about rejecting non-binary aspects of what people choose as their gender identity has been very troubling in the U.S.
Yes.
This is in the U.S. There is, I would say, again, very split. A lot of support for trans rights. A lot of younger people who feel very strongly about these issues, and President Trump's statement was quite devastating to them.
Yes.
I think I think the reality is that this non-binary aspect, in particular for young people, is something that is growing. It's hard to know when you see, for example, stories of parents grappling with very, 10-year-old kids or whatever who say, I know that I was born a boy, but I really feel like a woman and I want to dress in that way. And,
yes.
That's a very complex issue for parents.
Indeed.
But it does appear that we're in a time of incredible transition. And so I do think that there are really important developments about moving past a gender binary that, of course, is very threatening to many people.
Well, we're out of time, unfortunately, Professor, but thank you so much for coming on air with us to explain the significance of this ruling. So take care, Professor.
Thank you.
This is Professor Elizabeth Schneider, and we talked about the latest, the UK Supreme Court's landmark ruling on what may be the definition, as they see it, for this particular Equality Act when it comes to women. And this was our special interview. I'll be back with Bonnie in just a bit. It is time for our brand new segment. But guess who I have in the studio with us? Bonnie's back.
Hi.
How are you?
Back. Good, thank you.
Yay. So, brand new season.
Yes.
New segment.
I'm so excited. A new cult to follow.
Yes, a new one that she's founding right now, today, Tuesday, April 22nd.
Yeah, follow me, you guys.
So what is our segment called?
Oh, I am so excited. Well, first of all, I have to say, though, happy Earth Day.
Yes, it is.
Earth Day.
Today's Earth Day.
And it's very fitting because today is the first day of the new segment, which is called Simply Sustainable.
Ooh.
So if you can guess what that is about, it fits perfectly with Earth Day.
Non-disposable.
Yes.
Yes. Trying to,
oh, I love
make
it.
good choices.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, so this segment is going to be all about giving you guys great tips on how to be more sustainable and also giving you up-to-date news on climate and environment around the world and also here locally in Korea.
Okay.
So I am so excited about this. I think it's going to be hopefully really informative and we can try to keep things positive here and there. But the title of the show is Simply Sustainable because sometimes I think people really think of sustainability as this huge daunting task.
Yes.
It's pretty overwhelming. You know, there is a lot of news out there that sometimes isn't the most positive. So it seems overwhelming to try and make those changes. And we, of course, feel like we're just one person. Like, what can I really do?
Yes.
But I'm here to tell you there's a lot that you can do. And I always say it's not about being perfect. It's just about being better.
Better.
Right? Little bit by little bit. And all those little changes
My baby
equal
step, right?
big impact. Yes.
Using a mug.
Yeah. But maybe that mug will influence somebody else to bring their reusable and into ripple effect. So Simply Sustainable is all about keeping things simple, giving you guys really great tips on, and I know most of you probably have good sustainable practices already in place. But I'm going to give you some, extra cool tips maybe you didn't know.
Even our producer. Look at her Tumblr.
Yes.
Yay. She's so on top of things.
Oh, we're so eco-friendly here at BFM.
Yes.
Oh,
so
this is great.
Definitely a good thing.
Okay, I'm going to go into and let you know the why am I here? Why did we change this segment and why am I so excited about it? So I've been super passionate about this topic, sustainability, being eco-friendly for a while now. And when I was studying to be a teacher, my school had a whole huge focus on ecological literacy, meaning how do we teach students about the planet and the importance of why we should take care of it, not just harking on students. Don't litter, don't use trash, or don't make trash, don't use plastic, but telling them the reasons why. Why is this so important? Not just for us, but the whole planet as a whole, right? It's not just you yourself, but all the animals, all the wildlife, and then also everything we do to the earth will affect us in turn back.
Right.
So,
but it's so true what you say, kind of nagging or lecturing, especially kids, but even adults too, right? It's kind of you're don't want to really hear it,
And many people at this point have heard something along the lines of, don't use this, don't use that. And so they kind of know. But it's all about convenience, and priorities. People have different priorities in their life, and sometimes being sustainable isn't the easiest or best choice for them.
Sure.
So that's okay. That's why I'm here, because there are many, many ways that we can be more loving to our earth. And I also grew up in California up on the coast, and I went to college on the coast. So I've always been around the beautiful ocean, and I've always wanted to keep it that way. But in college, I started noticing more and more trash ending up on the beaches, and that's what kind of started the whole thing. I was wondering, why is because you're seeing trash that shouldn't be at the ocean.
It shouldn't be, but there's so much of it there.
Yeah, there are I've done a lot of beach cleanups, and the things that you find on the beach you would be very, very surprised. But those things don't end up there because people bring them there. They end up there because of a lot of different reasons.
Sure.
So anyways, when I started seeing more trash end up on the beach, I started to make it more of a priority of mine to live in a way that I'm helping the planet instead of hurting it. And like I said, we can't all be perfect. But flash forward to moving to Busan.
Yes.
I had a couple of shocks. So my first shock was I was on the beach and I noticed people were getting delivery food on the beach.
It's a thing.
Yeah, which is crazy because in the States, it's not that readily available. You can't just be like, I'm on this beach, by this tree, come bring me a pizza. It doesn't work like that.
I'm on Santa Monica Beach. I'm at Manhattan Beach. I want this delivered. It's like,
Yeah, the restaurant would say, no way.
No way,
right, you come get it. But here it's so easy. So I saw a lot of people getting delivery at the beach. Thought that was really cool. But the shock was some of those people left those delivery bags and all their trash on the beach. So that was a huge shock. I thought, how and why and what is going to happen to that?
Exactly.
And obviously, some of the birds, they love it because they start picking at the trash.
But it's probably like some of the, think about the spicy chicken.
Right.
That's like bad for them probably. Right?
Yeah, not great for the wildlife, but really, really not great for the ocean.
Right.
So that was the first shock. And then the second shock actually wasn't me, but my friends, because I, being kind of eco-conscious, I would bring a little pouch with my reusable straw and reusables in it. And a lot of my Korean friends were shocked. They
were shocked.
They said, why? Why are you bringing that? I said, so I don't have to use a plastic straw. And the next question was also, why? Why don't you want to use a plastic straw? Because, I care about the planet and I don't want to use plastic. But why? What does the plastic have to do with helping the planet? They didn't make that connection. So,
but at least they were asking questions.
Yes, they were, maybe just because they were a little embarrassed, but
I thought they were being curious.
Yeah, but they just had no idea. So then something switched in me and said, it's not that people here don't care. Maybe some people don't care, but it's not that everyone doesn't care. It's that they don't know.
Lack of awareness.
Lack of awareness, yes. And education around the whole topic.
Sure.
So in turn, that's what's made me kind of do more things around Korea. I've hosted a lot of beach cleanups, gone around the classrooms and talked to people at festivals about sustainability, why it's important that we help the earth and how we can do it. Because I don't want to just, again, hark on people and say, don't do this, we need to do this. But also I want to give you solutions, give you good tips on how we can do that.
That's important, yes.
So now, transition to BFM. This is why I am here to tell you to start this new segment and how we can all be a little bit better.
Okay.
And Busan is the perfect place for this kind of segment because, Korea and Busan, we've gotten a little bit more mainstream and we've gotten a little bit better about being more sustainable and being eco-conscious as a whole. Especially Busan because we are right by the ocean. We want to keep it beautiful. We want people to come here and say, oh, how beautiful is the ocean and the beaches in Busan, not, how dirty it was. And
I do have a question, though. I've been dying to ask you. Since you mentioned beach cleanup, what is like the strangest, weirdest thing that, because you've done so many. I'm sure you've seen it all.
Yes.
So what are some of like the weirdest, like why is this here kind of thing that you've seen?
One time I found a shoe, which is not that weird.
Okay.
But this shoe had been at the beach for so long. It was covered in shells and barnacles. Almost the whole shoe in itself. It looked like it had been bedazzled with shells. So it tells you how long, because we kind of had to dig to get it out. And this particular cleanup, we had so much trash, actually from Japan, and very old trash. Like if you looked at the dates, because some of the milk cartons and things had dates on it, and they were years and years and years and years, over 10 years. So these things had been floating in the ocean and then ended up on the beach. So it just told you how long they had been there.
Yes.
But I was with students and they were all so surprised because they were like, this isn't even Korean. This is Chinese or this is Japanese. Like this isn't even from here. So it had traveled so far to get here.
And barnacles being on, that means it's... And that shoe obviously does not break down.
Yeah, the shoe was completely intact. It really looked like a bedazzled shoe.
Not in a good way.
Not in a great way. No, not at all.
Oh.
But Busan is getting better. Korea is getting better. And, just this past November, I covered it, but Busan hosted the INC5, where over 170 different countries came together and negotiated a global treaty to try and tackle this plastic pollution crisis.
Sure.
And actually, as we're speaking right now, at this very moment, we are hosting the 10th anniversary of the Our Ocean Conference here at Bexco.
Oh.
Also. So the whole Our Ocean Conference is aiming to transition, I quote, ocean in crisis to an ocean of hope. And we'll be focusing on action steps to take. So Busan is getting, really environmental forward as we speak.
That's definitely a good thing,
Yeah,
right?
it's really great.
We're taking steps.
Yes.
We're moving in the right direction at least.
Baby steps.
Baby steps.
Baby
right.
steps, yes. But I want to end with some really awesome, positive news for the Earth and for Korea on this great Earth Day. This beautiful, rainy Earth Day.
Yes.
I was joking and saying maybe the Earth is crying a little bit today.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, the
telling us be
symbolism, right?
better, right? But I'll end with some positive news. One of the biggest sources of plastic waste is delivery food, right? And I know in Korea, it's very easy and very common to get delivery food.
Yes.
But it comes with a cost. Not only do all the packaging, some people still use styrofoam here too, so we have a lot of plastic waste in that, but also the packaging, but also the cutlery. And, in Korea, I thought it was really cool, but also they give you even those little like knife things to cut open your packages,
like opening up tteokbokki, they give you the little cute little
thing
knife,
to help you open it, but also it just adds to plastic waste.
That's true.
So one meal that you get of delivery, if you count the plastic pieces, which I have once, can be over 20, 25 pieces, depending how many people you're eating with. But so many pieces of plastic in just one serving.
You know what I have started? And you said baby steps, so don't get mad at me. But
no, never.
Okay, so we've started to do, it's not the best thing, but we really cut down on our delivery and we're doing more takeout.
Oh,
so
nice.
I haven't made the transition yet to bringing all my containers. Not yet.
Okay.
I'm not there yet, but we really have been consciously not ordering delivery. Because like if you order delivery, I'm thinking like the guy on the motorcycle has to, that's emissions.
Yes.
And then like plastic, like, the bags to carry your food. So at least we're like, okay, let's at least try to cut down. Let's take one baby step at a time.
Can I ask you, before you started doing this, about how often would you order delivery?
Okay, so before, I would say we're not a huge delivery kind of family anyways. Like once a week, which is not huge.
No.
But now we're down to, I don't think even, maybe once a month.
I think for a family, that's actually pretty good.
We're family of 5.
Yeah,
So,
I've asked my students, and some of them get delivery, and these are students.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're getting it with their family, sometimes not. But they said multiple times a week.
Yes, it's very common.
Yeah.
But like we weren't a huge delivery family anyway. We cook at home, but we've even cut that down even further.
Yeah.
So even maybe
that's great.
Maybe a month.
I think
maybe
that's pretty
once every
good.
2 months. Yeah.
I think it's pretty more common, and I think single person families also.
Yes.
I think some people I've heard even order multiple times a day. So I think that's pretty good.
And I this is not to judge people, but sometimes I see the delivery person with literally one like bag with 2 drinks. Like I don't know what the minimum order is, and then I always think like, I think of Bonnie, and then like I think, look at all the plastic.
Right, for one drink.
For like a drink, yeah.
Even if you get a drink, at your favorite cafe, a takeout, even takeout has about 3 on average, 3 to 5 pieces of plastic just for takeout. But then you get delivery, and that adds on a little bit more.
And I always say, I don't need the sleeve. It's okay.
Little steps, you guys. It's all about the little things. But I have really great news for everybody out there who loves to get their delivery, but maybe you want to be a little bit more eco-conscious and you want to be better to the
than
earth.
Me.
Good news.
Yes.
There is a company now in Seoul that will give you reusable containers for your delivery food. So it is called Return It. And in the delivery apps, you can actually choose to get reusable takeout instead of getting the plasticware for your food.
Okay.
And so the way that they do it is you choose that on the app, and then they come bring it to you in a reusable bag, all reusables in the bag. After you are all done eating it, you scan the QR code.
Sure.
And then you have it all packaged back up, and then you put it back into a dropping off bin. So they have these bins all over Seoul now, so you have to find one. It is still a little bit inconvenient, but so much better for the planet. So you drop the bag off, and then that's it. So pretty, not so hard. And if you're out at a park, most of the big parks now are getting this. So unfortunately, it's only in Seoul, and not all foods are available.
Sure.
So there are certain things that aren't, like chicken is still not there, and pizza is still not there.
Right.
If we see this becoming more popular, I imagine that this delivery company will start to make different packaging to cater to all of those different foods. So this is a huge step. It's not perfect. It's not at all the foods yet, and it's not at all locations. But hopefully, I even messaged them, please come down to Busan.
Right.
Please, let's get this down here, and hopefully we can get this to grow, and then we can feel less guilt about getting delivery food, and now people can get delivery food multiple times a day without the damage and the harm to the planet.
Right, and one of our listeners, Leslie, says it takes effort. The number of times that I forget my reusable bags when I go to the grocery store. I mean, it's true because we always try to keep one of those big, I can't say the brand name, the warehouse red bag.
Yes.
I always try to keep one in the car just in case. I don't know when I'm going to need it, but sometimes it takes effort. Yes.
Like I said, it's not about being perfect, right? It's just about being better. So the more often, the little wins, the times that you do remember, those are the times that count. And also, this is my whole thing with sustainability. We have to get comfortable with the discomfort and the inconvenience of it a little bit because we pay for those conveniences,
That's
right?
true.
And the payment that we're paying is the Earth's health, really, which equals our future and our health. So we must be a little bit, okay with the inconvenience sometimes. And the Earth will pay it back forward to us tenfold, hundredfold, thousandfold.
Yay. So thank you for our inaugural Simply Sustainable.
I am
we look forward to next week.
Excited. Me too. Have a great Earth Day, everybody.
Thank you, Bonnie. And with that, it is time to say goodbye to all of you. Our show is produced by Choi Yeji. Our writers, Haley and Sue. I'm your host, Katherine. Brown City by A Brown-Eyed Soul to take us out. Have a good one. Bye, everybody.
아직 꺼지기 전에 희미하게 남아 사라질 듯 남아 아직은 이 거리를 밝혀주는 지금 갈색빛으로 물든 이 도시에 남아 이 거리에 남아 세상을 바라보며 걸어가네 카페 간판 위로 깜빡이는 불빛 바쁜 걸음으로 집에 가는 사람 극장 앞에 모인 연인들의 얼굴거리 위엔 벌써 불을 밝힌 노점들 가로등이 켜지고 꺼진 불빛 아래 켜진 달빛 아래 어둠을 밀어내듯 밝아오는 지금 골목길을 뛰노는 고동빛에 물든 아이들의 얼굴 가만히 좀